you know, and this would just infuriate the rest of the band. They'd go, you know, we do all the work, we practice all week, she goes to school, she does everything else, and she gets all the credit, and we hate that. But they also knew that without me, their 75,000 people shows were gonna drop in a big way. So they put up with that, and then Lindsay and I kind of, well, we were both going with somebody else at that time, and some people from Los Angeles saw us, being Keith Olsen, the guy who produced our first album, and they really liked us, and they kind of brought us down to Los Angeles, and it was obvious then that they were going to try to break up the band. I mean, they were going to try to take me and Lindsay away from the rest of the band, and we knew it, and we didn't like it, and it was really sad, and that's what drove Lindsay and I together, and that's why we started going together. It was because we were so upset and so uptight about what, again, the music industry was doing to us. They were purposely separating a group of 5 people that had been together for 3.5 years that really loved each other, and they were breaking us up purposely, and we knew it. And they succeeded. They broke us up. And so that's when Lindsay and I moved down to Los Angeles by ourselves and started Buckingham Nicks. And then a couple years later, after the Buckingham Nicks album was done, Mick made the call on New Year's Eve, and the next day we met them, and the next day we had dinner, and the next day we went into rehearsal, and we rehearsed for 3 weeks. The next day we were in rehearsal for recording the album, and 2 weeks later we were recording, and 6 months later we were famous. So it was overnight. I mean, it was an absolute, they talk about, I mean, yes, I was singing since I was 16, and basically I was singing with my granddad since I was about 4. But,
well, how did you handle that?
Well, see, the 3.5 years of playing with Fritz allowed me to walk out on stage with Fleetwood Mac, because I had opened for, I mean, we opened for Janis Joplin, we opened for Jimi Hendrix, we opened for Chicago, we opened for Creedence Clearwater, we opened for every, I lived in San Francisco. We opened for every, I mean, my mind's a blank. I can't even tell you. We played Winterland, we played Fillmore, we played Avalon, we played every single big place, Santa Clara Fairgrounds, Monterey, Carmel, up and down the peninsula. So I had been doing this for 3.5 years. I had been standing there in the middle of the stage singing lead for 3.5 years, and that's what made it possible for me to take that stance in Fleetwood Mac. Otherwise, I would have just walked out there, had a heart attack, and died, because I couldn't have handled it. I would have been too nervous. As it was, I was sickeningly nervous. But I pulled it off because I had learned through that 3.5 years that nervousness for me seemed to be a part of what I did. That if I wasn't nervous, I didn't do a good performance.
You still get that?
I still get horrifyingly nervous. And I hate it because I know the second I walk out on stage, it's going to be gone. It's totally psychosomatic. But I'm sick. I feel sick. And then and the second that they say, okay, go, and that's what they do. I'm in my tent, and they hand me the flowers, and they say, go. And I go, and the second that I leave, and the second I see the audience, my stomach and everything just calms down, and I'm fine. I'm in my own element, you know. It's like my mom says, you have a look on your face that you never, ever have, ever, except for right before you walk on stage.
Well, it's probably like this, and then when you're out there, you're calm. And it was interesting to read about it, being in Fleetwood Mac, how much you guys were like in sync with each other as far as like your levels. Like when you guys were really high, it seems like you're all high. When things were really low, you were.
Oh yeah, we rose and sank together.
How did you get through it? It seemed like, normally one person's up and another person could bring you,
Well, when you're that cloistered in a group of 5 people, and especially when 3 of them are English and they're all absolutely insane, somebody, if it wasn't me or Chris or John or Mick, we couldn't depend on Lindsay for too many serious jokes, but one of the 4 could usually raise everybody's spirits if they wanted to. Now, sometimes we didn't want to raise our spirits. I mean, sometimes we all felt like being depressed, and that was the way it was. Everybody went to their own chair in the plane or in the dressing room, and people just didn't speak. And then there were other times where, you know, two people were in a bad mood, and the other two people went after their throats, like to get them